evening, everybody, and welcome to Sports Report After Dark. I am your host, Seven. With me is the biggest asshole I know, Dan the Dick Warner. What's up, buddy?
How you doing, man?
Yeah, good to see you. Still trying to process, you trying to get through that question about Tyreek Hill and Deion Sanders.
I was gonna bring it up here in the front. I didn't think it needed to be. Are we literally okay? So, just for anybody who doesn't know, the question on the sports report, which we just had, was one-on-one Deion Sanders versus Tyreek Hill, and we kind of worked out the accoutrement behind the whole thing, and that would be that within the process of a game, right, you wouldn't drop anybody else. And it would be Deion Sanders and Tyreek Hill in a game, one-on-one. In a game.
You see,
you're not dropping anybody, though.
And that's the thing. If we're dropping safeties in to help cover like a normal game would, because you're not, there's no way you're not going to, then yes, over the course of a game, I will give Deion the credit. But if just without any safety help, no, there's no way. I'm sorry. Tyreek Hill would burn him.
He would have
at least half the time.
He would have 14 catches for 350 and 5 touchdowns.
I don't know that it's going to be that much, but I'll give him a couple bills at least.
He knows what he's doing, and Deion Sanders doesn't.
Exactly.
Deion Sanders lost a lot. Deion Sanders is like a Major League Baseball player. He's only successful about a third of the time. Okay, and if you're successful a third of the time, that makes you a Hall of Famer, right?
Exactly.
But if you're not dropping anybody to him, Tyreek Hill is going to torch him.
Exactly. You're right. You're right. No, and you're exactly right. It's for me. It's the spot that I look at it with. I'm gonna pull this back a little bit. There we go. Okay, that looks a little more normal. Where I get with it is I can't justify Deion covering him the whole game. Is Deion going to make some good defense? Yeah. But Tyreek Hill is still, he knows where he's going. Deion can't, and especially when you have option routes that they will run where, okay, if they're with you on this, you cut and do a post route. If they're here, you go with a drag, where you drop down on, just follow the sideline down. Because of the fact that Deion's not even going to know that until Tyreek makes a decision. I can't.
That's the basis of football, is that one side knows what they're doing and the other side doesn't. When you're defending a play, the offense knows what they're doing and the defense doesn't. The decided advantage is for the offense, especially if you can't drop a safety into deep coverage. Deion Sanders was fast. I get it. He's one of the fastest players that's ever played the NFL. So is Tyreek Hill. And Tyreek Hill knows if he's going to run a post route and then stick a foot in the ground and run a flag, he will absolutely torch Deion Sanders. It will literally be a torching. It will be an absolute massacre on that side if you're not going to drop anybody. That was my main thing. And I don't know if those guys were on the same page as I was, thinking that
because they're trying to argue that Deion could do it without the safety help. That's their argument. I don't think it's possible. Yeah, no. I agree with you.
Possible.
No way.
It's not possible. He knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing. Within the normal structure of an NFL game, there is no way that one guy can just be like, yeah, let's just take this. That was what double coverage was invented for. Okay? Yeah. They used to drop safeties to Randy Moss because there wasn't one guy when Randy Moss knows what he's doing and the other guy doesn't. It is fucking impossible to cover him. I don't care if you're a Jaguar. I don't care if you're an actual Jaguar with 4 legs.
An actual Jaguar, yeah.
An actual Jaguar trying to guard Randy Moss. He knows what he's doing and you don't. You're just reacting. And when you just react to stuff, you don't do it as fast as if you know what you're doing. Tyreek Hill would absolutely scorch torch Deion Sanders all day long in an NFL game if he has no safety help. And more times out of none, some of those passes that nobody else could get to, Deion Sanders would get to, right? Deion Sanders would run up and be able to catch up and have the foot speed and the quickness and the instincts to be able to break up more passes than almost any other corner in the history of the NFL. I get that. But if we're talking like what Tyreek's going to go to, he goes for 200 yards. If you're not dropping anybody to him, he's going to have 2 80-yard touchdowns where literally he's going to turn around and the quarterback's going to pump fake a curl route that he's run 4 straight times in a row. He's going to pump fake a curl route, and Tyreek Hill's going to put his foot in the ground. And Deion Sanders, I don't care if he's Usain Bolt, ain't fucking catching up. He ain't catching up. Right when he pump fakes that and Deion throws that front foot forward, it's over. That's an
you're right.
Touchdown. Peace. See ya.
Now,
and that's the thing. Peace. See ya.
And Josh, yes, this is continuing. But no, without safety help, I can't. No, there's no way I can justify Deion taking that. If you give him the safety help, which he would have in a realistic game, because nobody is going to expect Deion to cover Tyreek by himself the whole game. That's just not even reasonable.
I honestly flip it around, Tony. Go Deion's on offense and Tyreek Hill's playing defense, foot speed wise and everything. Or some of the best quarters, like it's not the same thing. Like, dude, I played corner in college. I know that this shit is fucking ridiculously hard. If you have no help, like you can cover it up for a second, but if you have no help the whole game, they're going to fucking torch you with the dudes that fast. That kind of speed is a whole different thing.
And I think that's where it lands out. Like, it's literally, it's got to be the defining piece. If you're not giving Deion safety help, Tyreek will torch him. No question.
Tyreek. The argument I think that they were trying to make, and I don't think they understood they were not saying that. I think that Tony and Will were trying to make the argument that within the flow of a real NFL game, it's Deion and Tyreek, and all you're doing is matching Deion up off the line of scrimmage with Tyreek Hill the entire time. Within the normal flow of the game, he gets cover 2 help from a safety, right? So he gets halves coverage on one side. I'll take that argument. Honestly, I love Deion Sanders. I think Deion Sanders is one of my idols, bro. I used to call myself Deion in high school all the time. Seriously, used to call myself Deion in high school all the time.
Wait. Hold on. Oh, man. We're going to put more brakes on this than a fucking Pimp My Ride car. You used to call yourself Deion in high school. Please tell me more about this.
I used to just call myself Deion because I love Deion's. I always loved the hand behind the head and the ball out thing, right? I always loved that where he's doing and he used to do the skips. He used to when he got in the end zone, he would do the double skip thing. You know what I'm talking about? I used to like work on that end zone dance. Dude, Deion's one of my idols, bro. He's like one of my favorite players of all time. I understand how good he was. I don't think that I'm not trying to discount Deion Sanders. I'm really not. What I am going to do, though, is tell you if it's Tyreek Hill versus Deion Sanders without any safety help, there's 9 guys in the box. Fucking Tyreek Hill is going to torch Deion Sanders. Absolutely torch him.
Every time.
So,
not every time, but most of the time.
He's going to have 200+ yards receiving because nobody is meant to cover somebody one-on-one for that long.
No.
Right? Obviously, there's so many other factors involved as well. We can't just go like, within the flow of the game, is Tyreek Hill going to be able to shut down Deion is Deion going to be able to shut down Tyreek, or is Tyreek going to run over Deion? Obviously, there's so many other factors. Is the run game working? Is Deion – because Deion was never really playing the run at all, so we can take that out of there. But as far as like how it's working within the game, like who's going to torch who, that's a lot about game plan. That's a lot about other teammates. That's not about those two. That's why this is so confusing, right? Like it's not really about that individual matchup. They're just saying like, I get what they're saying. They're saying like, I'll take Deion against Tyreek Hill over a certain number of games and percentages. And like, you know what I'm saying? Like, will he shut him down more than other corners do? 100%.
Oh yeah.
100%. But what I'm saying, in one game, if he doesn't have safety help, dude, what are you trying to do to the guy? Like if you've never backpedaled and tried to cover a post corner route where literally a dude runs straight at you, goes post, so you start running with him, and then he puts a foot in the ground and runs directly sideways.
Yep.
Good luck.
Yep.
Honestly, Tony, dude, like me versus a corner one-on-one who plays in it, like I'm going to have the advantage to catch a ball. Like I'm not saying I'm going to do it, but like I'll have the immediate advantage if I just take that right step and go parallel with the yard markers. That's impossible to cover. You're backing up thinking the dude's running a post route and he puts a foot in the ground and goes sideways and the dude delivers the ball at that point. There's no way to cover that. If comparable athletes, no way to cover that one-on-one.
Before we get into our topic, which we will at some point, I swear to God, I really hope we don't run an hour and 45 minutes tonight. Because I have to work at 6 a.m. But I sent you a link over the weekend.
Right.
Tom Brady talking about with the penalties and defense with the way that some of these rules are. So and this was a direct comment from Brady. I'm kind of paraphrasing here. This is about what he said. Defensive penalties are being issued on offensive mistakes.
Yep.
And first off, I think that the clip, and I will post it in the sports report after dark group after the match or after the match after the fight. After the show
on the pitch.
But it was. I mean, I think it was respect to him for just holding himself and his co-quarterbacks to that standard. I think that's, he even talks about like when a quarterback takes a big hit that, and a defense gets penalized, that's because of offensive mistakes.
Right.
The quarterback shouldn't be exposed like that.
Right.
And so I wanted to get your thoughts on it because I thought it really spoke to the mind of Brady as a player, and I thought it was really interesting.
Well, what I got out of it is that he's in the game. He does this every day. What I've said from the beginning is there's so many with the targeting penalties for one. Okay.
Right.
Like I played safety in college. I wasn't looking for anything other than to tackle a guy. Okay. This stuff is happening within millions, thousands of seconds that
and
you
split
have to
reactions. Yeah.
And these people are reacting to things within thousands of seconds. For me to sit here and say that I didn't ever helmet to helmet somebody is ridiculous. Was I trying to hit them helmet to helmet? Maybe sometimes, but I wasn't ever, you know what I'm saying? Like I wasn't ever trying to do it. I was just trying to tackle somebody because
it's not like it was a Bounty Gate thing where you were trying to injure somebody. You were just trying to make the play is what you're saying.
I don't think anybody does any of that stuff where they're trying to injure people. They're trying to hit people hard. And I can see like the extra, like little bit of, maybe if you don't like the guy or something, but other than that, there's not really anything more intense about it. But to think that these guys can control where their helmet is going during one of these tackles is the most ridiculous thing. If you're going to start doing that, let's just start playing flag football. Let's just start playing no pads flag football, and you don't actually have to tackle anybody anymore. You just pull their flag off. Because, I mean, that's really what it's coming to. If you're going to try and take head injuries out, and Brady's literally seeing the beginning of the end at this point, is what he's seeing.
Right.
He knows that eventually the rules are going to get so ridiculous that every play is going to be penalized for something. Dudes are going to be getting kicked out for targeting. And he just knows that, like, eventually we're going to have to change it to something else. If people are going to be so pissed off about dudes getting head injuries and dudes getting CTE, which is an actual problem, I understand that. But, like, if we have to cut, so what? We're just going to cut the entire sport out? That's what football is.
I think that now there are certain things that I can understand in changes that needed to be made to reduce injury risk, especially when you look at the changes that they made on special teams. I think there's still more they can do. They can still keep the game interesting, but over the course of a normal actual game, an offensive and defensive play,
right?
I think that some of the rules have gotten a little excessive. Did Ed Reed go out and headhunt every once in a while? Yeah, he did. Like, I mean, these things happen, but it's a contact sport. There is no way we are ever going to make football, contact football, completely safe.
Nope.
So what the NFL is doing, and I have a theory on this with some of these fucking rules. I think the NFL is creating a distraction so that we aren't, they're trying to create these rules to create a distraction so that we're not talking as much about CTE, and they're trying to change the conversation. When ultimately the NFL should have taken more of an effort on dealing with CTE beforehand, and they're now just trying to cover up how much of a problem it actually is because of their lack of action.
Right. I think they're trying to cover up for truisms of the sport that they're supporting, that they're behind. You know what I'm saying? Like, the truisms of this sport are that you have freak athlete individuals going head to head every day on a very fast pace, in a very fast paced game, with quite literally no control over what they're doing to get the ultimate result out of it. Do you know what I'm saying? So, like, to get that tackle, I'll do fucking anything, bro. I don't care if I hit this guy in the fucking helmet. If it makes him go to the ground, that's what my job is. And if you don't think all these other guys aren't thinking the same thing when they're trying to come up, and especially in college, they're trying to make the NFL, or they're trying to fulfill their scholarship. If you don't think these guys are 100% willing to sacrifice their bodies and their minds for this sport, you're ridiculous. So let's just stop acting like they're not trying to do that.
Exactly. No. And you're exactly right. And the other thing that we have to look at with this is these individuals that play football have been playing it since they were young. Most of these kids that are in the NFL today have been playing football since they were big enough to put on a fucking helmet.
Right.
Okay. And so the physical damage that can cause from contact, because full contact football happens at a young age, even though it fucking shouldn't.
Right.
Even though it shouldn't. And so we have all of these repeated injuries that are already there. The NFL would do better to focus those financial resources on treatment for CTE and better ways of healing for athletes in general. Because if you go to the NBA and the NHL, we'll say, well, okay, we'll just say the NHL, because they are the other most fully contact sport. The NBA and the NFL and the NHL pull some resources. Obviously, the NFL footing more of the bill because the NHL has like $10. And you start to do research on 18 Canadian dollars. So it's like $10.50 US.
Something like that.
Yeah. They pull their resources and they do active research. How many of these colleges that feed directly into professional programs across all sports, and they have these amazing hospitals like KU has, Nebraska, they have amazing facilities for their athletics programs. KU has one of the best hospitals in the Midwest, in the Midwest. And they have all of these scientific resources to be able to research these things. The NFL, I'm sure the NFL, with as many lobbyists as they have, they could try to find a way to make the money that they're giving to these colleges a tax write-off to do this research, because they're going to get more longevity out of players, and we're going to get more that just helps humans in general, because those things that they're learning can be used in other ways to help humans outside of the super freak athletes that we watch on TV every week.
Right. And Tony, let's since we are a show that talks about the personal mental side of sports and the people behind who is doing this, I'll tell you this much right now. Those guys in the NFL, they take it as a pride thing. The fact is, they're okay with sacrificing their physical bodies for the betterment of their families and their friend. Like, they're completely fine with this whole thing. It's almost like a pride thing to them. Okay. They understand that what they do is dangerous, but they also understand that they make a lot of money doing it, and that is their career, and that is their family's livelihood. Okay?
Right.
So, honestly, I'm in the NFL. Put me in the NFL right now. Honestly, I will do that all day long, dude. I will literally sit there, and I would do anything. I don't care if it affects my long-term health. If they're going to pay me this many millions of dollars a year to do that, I'm going to be the best I can at it. And if that happens to be that down the line, my mental health is jeopardized, I don't give a fuck. And tell me about how many of those dudes don't give a fuck about their long-term mental, because they're literally sacrificing themselves. Yep. They are. And this is what it seems like to them. They're sacrificing themselves long-term for the goodness of their families and to have generational wealth.
Yep. No, you're right. Tell you what, I want to keep talking about this, but I just realized we're at like 22 minutes. So let's go ahead and take a quick break. When we come back, we were going to keep talking about this and then start working into our topic. We will be right back. Thank you for sticking with us right here on the Sports Report After Dark on the Pinfall Network. So that first commercial was for the Pinfall Podcast, which airs Sunday nights right here on the Pinfall Network at 10 Eastern, featuring Josh and Will diving into all things wrestling. As the ad shows, they do have the interview with Alex Zane coming up, just released from WWE, was featured on their NXT line and is getting ready to go independent and got lots to talk about in this release from WWE. And then the second commercial was for Double XP, which airs Wednesday nights at 8 Eastern right here on Pinfall, featuring Kay and the Punisher, two sisters talking all things gaming related. It's a great show. They get into all things, actually introduced me to a game that I now play a lot all the time, Splitgate. So I definitely recommend spending some time with them. They've got some giveaways going right now in their group. So check them out. And a big thank you to repsports.com and Raise Energy for sponsoring the Pinfall Network. The discount codes GGN10 as well as Pinfall get you 15% off all their website. Check out the White Peach limited edition new flavor on their website. You get great deals. And it's good flavor, zero sugar on their energy drinks. They've also got some workout products, so check them out. All right, so let's talk about this, because we going into this Brady video. Like, I think one of the other things that because we talk about, obviously, the reality of him being right on some of these penalties and these rules have been created to punish the defense for offensive mistakes. Like when it comes to the big hits throwing in the middle, like one of the things that people don't discount, we talk about how fast guys like Dion and Tyreek are. Okay, let's look at those two for a second. Okay, we'll use those two for a second because we've talked about them. So let's say for some reason Dion's lined up on the other side. He's lined up on Byron Pringle in the slot for some reason because of the scheme that they're running. Tyreek's on the other side, goes up, plants that foot and cuts across the middle. Pat zips him the ball right there in the middle. Dion, also running at full speed because he reads the play, makes contact with Tyreek and makes that big hit. Okay. These are two guys men, 200 pounds, running at full fucking speed.
Right.
Tyreek Hill can, when running at speed, get over 20 miles an hour. Physics dictates that when he's got a big motherfucker coming back at him at what is, because of their 40 times, we can tell you is similar speeds. But, yes, Deion's going to be slower, but he's also a bigger dude. So when Tyreek hits that wall, push is going to come to shove. Like, it's not even that Deion's aiming to put all of that power. It's just physics.
Right.
It's just lands.
And the point is too, in that split second that they have, that Deion's going to have to react to that, or any safety or any corner or any linebacker in the NFL is going to have to react to that. I'm telling you right now, because I've been in the situation, obviously not at that level, but I've been in the situation. The first thing you think of is not, oh, how can I make this tackle properly and with my shoulder and not lean with my head? That is the most ridiculous thing I have ever heard in my life. If you have ever been in that situation where you just have to react and tackle somebody who's going that fast, guess what? You're not worried about your own health, or especially the health of the person that you're hitting. All you're trying to do is get them on the ground, because that's the name of the fucking game.
Yep.
That is flat down. That is it. Nobody is thinking about, let's not get a targeting penalty. And if they are, that's not good either, because that kills the integrity of the game, for one.
Right.
If you're literally thinking like, oh, hang on real quick, let me turn my shoulder. Okay, so there's the ball. That dude just caught it. Hang on. Let me get my head out of the way on this hit. No, none of them are thinking like that. All of them are thinking, how can I disjar the ball, or how can I literally hit this dude so hard that he drops it?
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if you get fined the week before for a dirty hit. You are still not thinking about that. That is not what this game is. And we need to accept the violence.
Well, it's like
the violence.
There's two pieces here that I want to compare this to. Like, because obviously, especially when it comes to football and hockey, we'll say football especially because more money, more viewers. So we'll use football as a prime example. They are, as even you have said before, our modern day gladiators. Okay. The changes that we're making in the NFL now would be like them going, okay, so the Lions that we send in to go after these guys, we're going to declaw them before we send them in, because we want to make sure we keep them as safe as possible until they get eaten.
Right. Yes.
Like, let's be realistic here. There's an element of danger to this game. That's part of the allure of football.
Right.
We talk about the criticisms of baseball, and one of those being because it's not a contact sport, they need to do other things to liven up the game.
Right.
Okay. So we're going to try and make baseball less boring and football more boring. At what expense?
At what expense? At what expense do you just change it into a different game? Because
exactly.
Right now, and Brady basically said this in that interview. He said, like, you're going to make this into a completely different game. This is not what made you the money in the first place. So now the owners and the players associations, which we're going to get into in a second.
Right.
The owners and the players association and the fans are all in on this thing where they're like, oh, well, let's make this game more safe. There is no making this game more safe without sacrificing the reason why people watch it.
Mm-hmm. No, you're exactly right. And I think that so we need to, and that's why I think, when it comes to this stuff, the changing the rules, there are certain things, obviously there are certain improvements that can always be made. So I will not as a blanket say all rule changes have been bad, but when that's your focus, when the rule changes your focus, instead of on looking at the reality of your situation, hey, we have a physical game. Right. People get hurt. That's why teams have practice squads. That's why guys that were Heisman Trophy winners in college and 5-star D1 high school recruits into college don't do a damn thing in the NFL.
Most of them don't.
That's just the way they don't. That's just the way that it is. So let's stop pretending that we're saving these guys from themselves, because when they sign that NFL contract, they know what they're getting themselves into. Yep. When they step onto that field in college, they know what they're getting themselves into. So we have to stop pretending like we have to protect him in every step of the way. At some point, it's just like with the fact that in the NFL, if two players are fighting, or in the NHL, two players are fighting, they let them fight it out and then put them in the penalty box.
Right.
Which I think is a great approach to it, because they understand hockey. When it comes to hockey, people go see hockey live because they want to see players fight. When you see any depiction in TV or movies of hockey, there's always at least one fight.
Because it's
every
legal.
Time.
The best rule in professional sports is that NHL fight is legal.
Exactly. I mean, and that's the thing. And so the NHL has, at least to their own regard, they've recognized that, players die on the ice and they're sitting on the bench wanting to go back in. And that's one of the reasons why the NHL has been able to stay alive, despite the fact that they don't have the financial resources of the NFL, because they have embraced the physical side of their game. And this is why I think that the NHL and the NFL should work together in researching those things that athletes go through, not just CTE. Don't get me wrong. I'm not just putting all of CTE on them. They have the resources to work on helping athletes heal better. We don't want steroids. Okay, what can we actually do to help these human beings that put their bodies on the line in these sports heal better so that they can do more?
Right. And Tony, frankly, let's just stop. Let's stop acting like these guys want nor need your fucking protection. Okay?
Yeah.
They don't fucking want it, and they don't need it. If you don't think that these guys understand when they get to the NFL level from what they've been through on a football field, if you don't think they understand what they got themselves into, you are fucking sorely mistaken. Mm-hmm. You are sorely mistaken if you don't think they know what they got themselves into.
Especially those kids that play on the defensive and offensive line.
Right. There's not even any pride in that. You can make it to the NFL. I mean, there's the money, but it's all about love of the game. These guys love playing that game. Right? They love playing that game. They don't need your help to keep them safer because they don't give a shit. Okay? They don't give a shit. They're harming themselves on purpose for the glory of the sport that they play professionally. Mm-hmm. And it happens to come with quite a fucking few perks when you get to that level, because you have sacrificed your entire body, your mind, your body, for years at this point. Mm-hmm. You have worked so freaking hard to get to that point that they love the game, and they're probably insulted by the fact that somebody thinks they need to, from an upper class fucking perspective, to protect them, because the people that look at the sport and go, that's barbaric, then don't fucking watch it. Then Honestly. Don't fucking watch it. I don't care about, then don't fucking watch it then. Yes, barbaric shit happens all of the time. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, people hurt themselves on a daily basis all of the time.
Well, you see, and that's the thing of it is the NFL truly is not even the most barbaric sport that's professionally played.
Well, the UFC is probably top of the line at this point.
We'll look at, but that's just blatant one-on-one fighting. Let's look at actual competitive sports outside of combat. Let's look at things like, rugby, the NHL,
rugby,
women's soccer. Have you seen how violent those chicks get?
Aussie rules.
It is a brawl. Aussie rules football.
Well, soccer though, how much contact do they really get in soccer? The chicks foul the fuck out of each other, but that ain't fucking, that's one time that they get hit and they get a foul. It's not every play.
Lacrosse is another one. Field hockey.
Would you say lacrosse is about as physical as the NBA though? It's probably pretty, the NBA gets, they almost have the same contact rules in lacrosse as they have in the NBA, as far as how much you can touch somebody else, or, you can roll off people and stuff like that, and you can stiff arm them and put a hand into them and stuff, which you can't obviously do in basketball. But as far as contact goes, lacrosse is it is a contact sport, and there are certain times when you can get hit, but it's still not a full contact sport. I'm
not going to say that it's as full contact as, say, hockey or football. Obviously, but it's, I mean, by rule standard, it's definitely more physical than the NBA or
basketball,
even Major League Soccer.
Definitely than soccer.
Right.
I mean, you touch somebody in soccer and it's a
yeah.
I'd say soccer's got about as many. Soccer's got almost that same level of contact as baseball does, just on a different level. Sometimes you get rolled over or something, but then they just play it off because nobody's actually trying to touch anybody in that sport. Let's be honest. Like if they do touch them and it looks ridiculous, then they get a red card for it. So nobody's actually trying to touch anybody else. Like
right. I mean, they're trying to like box them out and stuff like that, almost like from a basketball standpoint when you're playing defense or offense, if you're the one with the ball trying to keep them away from you. But I mean, contact wise, outside of that, like, yeah, there's some slide tackling, but when you're slide tackling, you're going for the ball. You're not going for the person.
You're not going for the person.
Sometimes you're gonna trip somebody that's running at a quarter speed because you're not going to see people in soccer running at full speed with the ball. It doesn't happen.
Right.
It can't happen because the ball is slower.
I mean, we've kind of had this conversation before. I'll sit here and argue that football is the most violent sport out of all of them, no matter what. And here's why. You can sit here and you can give me Aussie rules football or rugby or anything like it, which if nobody knows the difference between Aussie rules football and rugby, it's basically the same thing, except for instead of scoring like you would score on a goal line in football, you kick it through the uprights. There's a smaller upright, bigger upright. There's points for each one. So the bigger upright's less and the smaller upright's more. That's the general idea. They don't wear pads, but the thing is, they're also all running in unison with each other on every play. Like there's a lot of like, let's just stand around the pile and we can get a little bit of an uptick to hit somebody. Like you can get a couple of steps and hit somebody. They're not wearing pads. You can get a couple of steps and hit somebody. But in football, you got a dude running a slant route and you got a safety 15 yards back. That's 20 yards. You two can get up to full speed, projectile speed.
No, and you're right. The other person. And that's why, and that's why when it comes to the NFL, like as far as like on regular ground, the NFL is definitely going to be the most violent because just like I was talking about earlier with with contact, the play up the middle with Tyreek coming into contact with Dion. Like you've got two full grown men running at full speed that make contact. In hockey, that's the other thing that you get because those guys get going booking on ice. And I think that obviously
flying on the skates.
And yes, you may not see the same kind of speed exactly. I mean, you're maybe not necessarily going to see, a wing in hockey skating 20 miles an hour from blue line to blue line. That's just not going to happen. They can't get up to speed that quick.
Right.
But at the same time, because they are on ice, there's a lot less traction and a lot more can happen.
Right.
And so that's why I still definitely keep hockey up there.
I mean, those guys on those skates, when they get to full speed down the rink, those guys are going faster than anybody can run in the history of mankind. Right.
Right.
Those guys are so yes, you have some hits, and usually it's always a guy that's trying to like clear a puck off of so they're trying to clear the puck. So they're usually sitting still and the one guy's just going really fucking fast and just barrels them into a fucking wall. Right. I mean, that's most of that. And then obviously you have the fact what we talked about that they can fight. The rule in hockey, as long as you stay on your feet, you can fight. You can touch each other up. I get that part. That's not near the impact we're talking about either. Getting hit in the head with a fist is not near like getting hit in the head with a helmet from a dude catapulting himself from 6 yards away from you while you're also running full speed. There's absolutely zero there. I don't care if not.
It comes down to definitely a difference in the physics of what's actually going on in the game.
Right.
But yeah, no, and that's the thing is people, you don't see a lot of people going, oh, hockey's too violent. No, people love hockey. It's $180 for upper bowl seats for the fucking Arizona Coyotes. Those guys are horrible, or Phoenix Coyotes, whatever they are this year. I don't care. But
they're the impromptu Arizona Coyotes, I guess.
I mean, well, and here's the thing. Like, the NHL's been doing a horrible job of trying to keep hockey alive in the desert. And it's I mean, Arizona's kind of like, with how you have some teams in the MLB and the NBA and stuff like that. They're basically farm teams. That's what the Coyotes are right now. I mean, and that's despite the fact that for a while they were coached by Wayne Gretzky.
Right. Yeah. No, I didn't even know that till you just told me. So that's how much people know.
Yeah, exactly. But all right, so we're going to take another break. When we come back, we are actually going to dive into our topic today. So we'll be right back. I hope so. At some point, I think we'll get there.
Are we?
All right, stick with us. We'll be right back. Telling me to dance, taking a chance. To dance, taking a chance. Okay, and thank you for sticking with us here. I went ahead and finished out our breaks for the evening because we only had one other commercial to do anyway. So that first commercial was for Drop the Mic, which airs every other Tuesday, and it does air this week, tomorrow night at 10 Eastern, featuring Josh and Pun, talking all things music related. Great conversation. I actually produce that. You'll see me prop in from time to time because I have no self-control. But that is Tuesday nights right here on Pinfall at 10 Eastern. That second commercial was for the one that airs on the opposite Tuesdays because these air every other Tuesday. Is Really Good Podcast, that will be next Tuesday at 10 Eastern. That features Josh and Kay talking all things TV and movie related. Next week, we are going to be actually Will and I will be a guest on that as we talk TV dads, TV and movie dads, and some of the best and some of the worst. So definitely check that out. And then that last commercial was for the Geek Gauntlet podcast, which airs live on Twitch on Saturday evenings, featuring Will and Shaw talking all things geek related. That is Saturday evenings at 10 Eastern on Twitch, and then that airs on Tuesdays as well. That shows up at Tuesday mornings on the Pinfall Network to view after if you don't have access to Twitch. Of course, a big shout out and thank you to repsports.com and Raise Energy Drink for sponsoring the Pinfall Network. You can use the codes PINFALL or GGN10 for 15% off their website. The white peach new flavor, zero sugar energy drink is available now. So let's actually talk about our topic. Let's go ahead and actually dive into our topic tonight. Players unions between the big sports. What?
Real quick. So we got Kay, Pun, and Josh are on one of the podcasts, right?
No. So Josh is on. So Tuesday nights with the Really Good is Josh and Kay. Drop the Mic is Josh and Pun.
Well, what I'm trying to say is we have Josh on the show all the time. Mm-hmm. I'm saying that why don't we get Kay or Pun, because I feel like they're the better parts of the two. So why don't we not get either one of them ever? We just get Josh.
I don't know that they're really into sports all that much, but I can definitely talk to either one of them and see if they want to join.
You know what I'm saying? Like, why don't?
Yeah.
Like,
I don't know.
We get Josh at all this, right? Is that we're trying?
And we could even because they do the gaming podcast, we could even have them on and talk about esports and then how that's changing professional sports.
Love to, or their fucking music podcast is awesome.
Oh yeah, drop the mic is amazing. Yeah,
but I'm just saying, like, what I'm saying is we get the shitty part of those three. Do you know what I'm saying? We get the first third of those three, and then I'm saying, like, why? So what? We're just mincemeat. Apparently, we just get all the time.
Well, actually, you're mincemeat because Kay helped produce the First Generation Dad podcast this year. So actually, you're mincemeat. I've gotten to work with Kay.
That's not what I was saying at all. But yeah, let's just go with that. Apparently.
No, I'll see if I can get him on. No, that's not a bad idea. I think we could probably figure something out with him.
I like that they don't know anything about sports because I don't want to talk about sports with them. You know what I'm saying? Like, we can talk about we're obviously both huge movie fans. We got plenty of things about movies and shows, and their shows are so fucking awesome. I'm saying, like, why don't we get to get on there? I'm not even asking them to get on. I'm not even asking them to take me on. I'm saying, why don't we get one of them instead of Josh?
Well, I think we'll see. We need to make it happen.
It's mostly just because I want to make fun of Josh for a second, just to get it
right. No, the human snow cone. I still think that was some of the best. That was one of the best things I've ever come up with was calling him the human snow cone.
It's perfect. But I also like those two as well. Oh, yeah. And listening to him talk, and you know what I'm saying. Like they're very knowledgeable. So why can't we have them on instead of we just always fucking get Josh. Like, why am I always in the fucking situation where we need to just have Josh?
Yeah.
And just saying. I mean, love you, Josh. Would like a different voice. Just saying. That's it.
So, okay.
He's gonna be mad.
Okay, let's go Panthers. Yes, Panthers are not gonna have a good season this year.
Fuck him and fuck the Astros and all that shit. Fuck the 2017 Astros. Fucking taking Morse code signs to beat my Yankees in the ALCS. Fuck the Astros and fuck all that shit. That's all I'm saying. All right, go ahead.
Okay, hold on. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead in the interest of fairness, because it hasn't really been too much of a concern, but of course, parental advisory, explicit content. We don't give a fuck. Okay.
Oh, run it now. Good. We're only 50 minutes in. Yeah, she's probably run it. Never mind.
Better late than never, unless you live in Texas. I
get that. That's it.
No. But okay, so players unions, professional sports players unions. You know, there's a lot of people that kind of mistake what the players unions do. You know, they kind of think, oh, these players are paid too much. You know, unions are doing too much. They need to let the league do what they want to do. But a lot of people don't realize how important players unions are. You know, so I'll ask you this question first. You know, when we look at the big major professional sports, obviously within the U.S., we'll say Major League Baseball, the NFL, and the NBA. Who do you think has the strongest players union in professional sports?
The NBA.
Why?
Not a doubt.
I'm not saying I disagree. I'm just curious for your reason as to why.
Because they actually give their players a voice. Do you think there's any actual voice of any of the NFL players in any of those meetings? That is all some corporate, just overloaded bullshit. And like the NBA is a bunch of corporate overloaded bullshit, but their players are so much more because they don't have helmets on. For one, let's look at the human aspect. Because the NBA's players don't have helmets on, they are more personable.
Faceless. Right.
Exactly. They're more personable on a national TV level, which is where we need to look at a lot of this just off the bat. It needs to come off of what does it look like on TV? I've said on this show before, the only reason that the NHL is not a more popular sport in the United States is because it is not good on TV. It's not.
You're right. You're right. And I think that, and I agree with you that the NBA has the most powerful players union. And I think that the reason behind that is Adam Silver, when he became commissioner of the NBA,
took the player side.
he took the player side, and the NBA realized how much of a tool social media could be for marketing your professional sport. And so he did, and I'm going to use this because I know that we have some wrestling people that follow the network here. He did what WWE did in the Attitude Era in wrestling. He allowed the players' names to become bigger than the league itself, because it's not just LeBron names. LeBron James. That's a household name.
No,
there is multiple household names on almost every team in the league now.
Tony, let's also point out you have. Okay, so here's one of the main things that I think kind of ruins the players' pull in a lot of this is that you have a lot of people. There's so many people like me personally who don't follow teams personally. They follow players. I'm not an LA Lakers fan, even though you can see that right there. I am not an LA Lakers fan. I am a LeBron James fan. I am not really even a New England Patriots fan. I'm a Randy Moss fan, and I'm a Tom Brady fan. All right? I don't follow teams. I don't think that anything I follow Nebraska because, God, if you're born in Nebraska, you might as well just do it, right?
It's in your blood, right?
It's fucking Jesus.
Right.
I just try and root for them because I live here, and that's the only thing that we have. And I know it's if they didn't have football here in Nebraska, that all these people would just hang themselves. But the thing is, players are the entire league. Do you think that there's nobody like me that just follows players? Because holy shit, it's most of them. The only people they don't like the actual team. They're just oh, I love that Angels logo. Gonna be an Angels fan. No, that's not maybe they liked it because of fucking what's that one movie with the little kid who pitches for the Angels?
Oh, Angels in the Outfield.
Maybe they like it because of that, but that's not real sports fans. Real sports fans like players. Real sports fans are fans of players. They are. They don't follow certain teams. They follow teams from their area, and I don't get that either because I think that's stupid. If you don't like that team and they're not any good, and you just like another team because their logo or because of the players who play for them, why don't you just follow their team? Why do you have to be a Chiefs fan because you were born in Kansas City? Right.
It's I was not born in Kansas City. I'm a Chiefs fan by choice. I chose the Chiefs when I was 7 years old. Now, yes, it was because I was living in Arizona and my other option was the fucking Cardinals. But you were kind of around, but you had originally kind of been from around here though, right? I was a Chiefs fan before I moved to the area because I was a Chiefs fan when I was 7. I didn't move to the Kansas City area for the first time until I was 13. The reason that I'm a Chiefs fan. So actually let me correct that, because from the time that I was 6 until I was almost 8, I lived in Omaha for about a year and a half that I lived in Omaha with my uncle because my mom was getting clean. And Omaha, it was an amazing city. I went to Jefferson Elementary and
wow.
Okay. For first grade. And then I think it was the school that I went to for the part of second grade that I was down there before I came home. It was something like Jefferson. But and he was a diehard Chiefs fan. And so and that's one of the reasons why I got into football. I'll never admit this to him, but it's one of the reasons that I got into football was because I would watch it. Well, I was always just kind of okay, yeah, go Chiefs. Well, then I came back and I was watching the Cardinals. I just didn't like watching the Cardinals. I didn't think they were good. I liked watching the Chiefs. I liked the energy that you see, because even in the 90s, even when the Chiefs still hadn't had a playoff win, the energy inside Arrowhead Stadium is unfucking real. It sucks you in.
Let's just set that out right now. I don't give a fuck if you're a Kansas City Chiefs fan or not. The energy that those fans give and the commitment that those fans have to their team is second to none.
Seriously.
I would love to see another team that has that amount of commitment to it. There's a couple, obviously, that are up there.
Right.
I'm not going to say that they're better than any other team as a fan base, but Kansas City Chiefs fans are literally the greatest fans in the United States. That's not a joke. That's facts.
I know, and I appreciate that. I will say, though, as a Chiefs fan, I really appreciate the way that the Bills Mafia does what they do. The Bills fan base is unreal. And Buffalo's fan base is absolutely amazing because they party their asses off and they support their team, but they will also just as quick drop 10 or 20 grand in charities to an opposing team's quarterback because they got injured in the game against him.
Right. It's the whole,
and so that's the reason I love fan bases like that. And I think that the organizations that have those fan bases, those organizations are typically run better. Like Buffalo, a decently run organization. I'm not saying they're always going to be World Series contenders, but the organization as a whole is run well. Kansas City, the Hunt family knows what the hell they're doing when it comes to running a football team. They don't always have the best rosters, but when you look at some of the pickups like Jamal Charles, Priest Holmes, Trent Green, they got a lot out of Trent Green, despite the fact that he really was not the best quarterback at all times. Right. I mean, it's just, so well run in the organization, but like the counter thing that you see in the NFL is, to the NBA, continuing our topic, NFL players don't have a seat at the table when it comes to that game. And I think it's one of the reasons why these rule changes are going the way that they are, because the players would have told them that, but they're not listening to the players. They allow the players to be more marketed. And I think that that's why the NFL is second of the three that we talked about, because their players are more marketable. You can still see a couple of household names. They, some of the players are still allowed to have that bigger thing. They like that to have, maybe one every team, that's a really big name. They like the quarterback of a team to be a household name in the area, or within the fan base. Right. They like the merch signings, the big merch, the pushing the merch of the favorite players and stuff like that. The NFL loves that, but players don't have a seat at the table.
Right.
And I think that that's one of the reasons why money stuff gets so complicated with NFL players, is because they don't have a seat at the table. They're not being listened to. And so they want to get paid more, because if you're going to be like, okay, I'm going to pay you, shut up. Okay, pay me more. You're not paying me enough to shut up right now. And that's exactly what they're saying.
Right. And the pay is coming along with the fact that they don't need to shut up. You know what I'm saying? They're that valuable at that point that they don't need to shut up. And that's okay. And pay me more if you want me to shut the fuck up, but I still probably not going to shut the fuck up, because the more that you pay me, the more power you give me ultimately. Right. And like a perfect example of what you were just talking about, Tony, the last episode of Hard Knocks, CeeDee Lamb's son, he literally asks him, they ask him during one part of it, and they show it on camera. They show him, they said, what quarterback do you want to meet? This is CeeDee Lamb, the starting wide receiver for the Dallas Cowboys. He says, what quarterback do you want to meet? And his son goes, Patrick Mahomes. And
was it Freddie Freeman's son in the All-Star game wanted to meet?
Well, buddy, he's like, that's not who we're talking about, bud. He's like, what quarterback do you want to meet? And his son, again, Patrick Mahomes. And he goes, oh, sorry. Because somebody clearly cues him from the outside, like, hey, no.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, sorry, Dak Prescott. Sorry, Dak Prescott. It is the most clear thing of all time. Like, he literally, his son doesn't even like his fucking quarterback.
Oh, God.
CeeDee Lamb's son does not even like the Dallas Cowboys quarterback. So
I think that the Dak Prescott situation in Dallas, the way in which they're clearly overpaying Dak, I don't blame him for going to get the money. We agree on that,
right?
But he's not a $40 million a year quarterback either.
God, he ain't a $75 million quarterback a year quarterback.
No, and that's the problem. In because the NFL won't let players sit at the table. Yes, there's the players' union. And you have a union rep on each team, but like the NFL hasn't grasped yet. And I think that when Roger Goodell gets replaced, they have the opportunity to put an Adam Silver-esque type person in place and really start to use the players like the NBA has. But
they've been using them, but they didn't use them correctly.
They're not using them correctly, and that's what I think that they can fix, because the counter is, our obvious third place option here, Major League Baseball Players Union. If you don't give players a seat at the table, the NFL is going to quickly, by their next CBA, be in the same situation that the MLB is right now, where the players aren't really going to want to listen when it comes to sitting down at the table for that CBA. They're going to try and shove so much crap up the ass of the owners that we're going to see a strike. And I think if we see an MLB strike because of this CBA, that will start the end of baseball. Just no question.
So, Tony, I know that you have a very deep knowledge of sports in general. Honestly, you're very knowledgeable. So I know that you're going to know the answer to this question. But if I were to ask people, like, just based on what an outsider who kind of follows the NFL, who kind of stays with it, who is the highest paid in 2021 at the beginning of this season here in 5 days, 6 days? Who's going to be the highest paid quarterback on any NFL roster right now?
It's Dak Prescott, isn't it?
It's Dak Prescott.
I was going to say yeah.
Dak Prescott is going to make, I'm going to say this very slowly, $75 million. Dak Prescott is making $75 million guaranteed this year.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2 is Tom Brady at about 28.5, right? If you ask somebody who doesn't know about football who the highest paid player or who the highest paid quarterback or / player in the NFL is,
they're going to drop Patrick Mahomes.
Prescott.
Yeah,
Dak
they're going to say
Prescott's
Patrick
going to
Mahomes.
be what? The 30 or 35th guess? He's going to be down there. Like, you're going to have to lead them towards the fact that the Dallas Cowboys quarterback is the highest paid dude in sports.
Yeah. Right. You know, it's like, no, your answer has to be stupider. No, stupider. Lower the bar even more. Keep it going.
Go more ridiculous and unfulfilled and undeserved. Go even more undeserved.
Stop at Matt Leinart and go back up by 3.
Go even more undeserved. Go even more undeserved. Right? Like, that's like, so it's clear that it doesn't translate directly into getting paid, right? So, no. I mean, the talent doesn't translate directly. It depends on situation. And Jerry Jones admitted in a press conference to Dak Prescott's face that he overpaid him. He actually says, "You got me. I overpaid you," I think is the actual quote.
Yeah, he says, he says that exactly. No, you're right. I've seen the video.
You got me. I overpaid you because I think the blowback would have been worse if I'd have moved off you and we'd have been worse. Was what it was. He literally
that's the dumbest fucking justification you can have.
He paid for a mediocre. He paid for mediocrity. Because if I think he's mediocre, then he doesn't seem like he's the worst owner ever, which Jerry Jones, in some facets, is the worst owner that's ever owned a professional sports team.
And I'm going to say something. You might disagree with me on this here, and that's okay. I would rather, as a team owner,
right?
I would rather be in a situation where I'm starting Mitch Trubisky at $10 million. You know, we'll even say a lofty $10 million a year.
Probably accurate.
Probably we'll say Mitch Trubisky at $10 million a year with that roster.
Pay close to that.
Then I would with Dak Prescott at 75, because yes, Dak's top end is higher, but the problem is that top end is a lot more questionable because of how unavailable he is, which is what speaks to your monetary value in the NFL.
Tony, let's throw the salary out the door. And honestly, it's going to take me a second to evaluate whether I want Mitch Trubisky or Dak Prescott to be my quarterback.
Especially as happier as he looked this year in Buffalo, I think that the bad leadership in Chicago kind of wore him down. And so, especially seeing that he's got his energy back now and he looks like a lively quarterback, I would at first glance, I'm going to grab Trubisky over Dak Prescott because I know I can at least rely on him.
The physical tools are better than Dak Prescott's. I would love somebody to offer me that shit. Mitch Trubisky is a better physical without the mind thing, which is obviously what you talked about on the show. The mind is about 90%, but that 10% that is all physical skills, if I'm looking at it on paper, Mitch Trubisky is my starting quarterback.
Absolutely.
Dak Prescott, 100% of the time.
And when you look at the fact that Patrick Mahomes, the $500 million man, that as one of the youngest starting, was one of the younger starting quarterbacks in the NFL right now has an ownership piece in 3 sports franchises.
Yeah.
The Royals, the women's soccer league team, and Sporting KC.
Yeah.
So the $500 million man is making less this year than Dak Prescott, whose expectation is, let's hope he can win the worst division in the freaking league.
Right.
And go 9-8. You're kidding me. I would much rather have Mitch Trubisky than Dak Prescott.
Patrick Mahomes makes less money than Matt Ryan does this year.
Which is crazy because Matt Ryan is fucking useless. Atlanta should have moved off of him already. I'm sorry, but they should have.
Well, when you're up 28-3, you really don't know what else to do other than just.
And that's the thing I don't understand Atlanta because Matt Ryan's prime was good, but not great. It was above average.
Right.
And was short-lived. When was the last time Matt Ryan actually had a competent season under center?
17. He wanted
that's what I was saying. 17 was the last one that I was thinking. So we are now 4 years. 4 years. And that is with the fact that we do have guys like Mitch Trubisky sitting on the sideline.
Right.
And you're still going to run with Matt Ryan?
Yeah.
Let him go back to One Tree Hill episodes. Which I thought that was an interesting touch that One Tree Hill had actually done that. I thought that was a pretty cool little piece in that when he was coming into the Falcons. But no, okay, back on I don't understand why Atlanta hasn't moved off of him. Who's the coach in Atlanta now?
That's a good question.
Because it's not Lovie Smith, is it?
I don't know. Tony, I'm running off screen real quick. Gotta piss.
Okay.
Take that break.
I want to take a look at this because
I'm listening.
Yeah, you're fine. Anyway, yeah, we're going to go ahead and take one more last break. I'm going to show a couple of commercials that we've already shown here to reinforce some stuff. We'll be right back.
Coming back.
Okay, so thank you for that. Don't forget, we have the interview with Alex Zane coming up on the Pinfall Podcast, former WWE wrestler on the NXT programs that has been released from WWE. And we also have the commercial for another real podcast, Drop the Mic, which will be tomorrow night at 10 Eastern, featuring Josh and Pun going into all things music related. And that will also feature me as producing that. Definitely check us out. Okay, so as we wrap this up tonight, let's
apologies.
Let's look at this. It happens. It happens. So let's look at this.
It's one of those drunk pisses, where you gotta
it's time to break the seal. We got you.
Yeah, it's like, well, no. It was like, holy shit, I gotta go. Go ahead.
But okay, so obviously we can agree. When it comes to the strength of the players' union, it's the NBA, the NFL, and Major League Baseball. But one of the reasons why I think that the Major League Baseball players union and owners relationship is a concern is I had a phone call yesterday. Guy that was a writer for the for a local newspaper for the Giants back in the end, and Giants and the A's back in the late 80s and 90s. So back when obviously this was Giants were in and out, they came out of being the worst team in baseball, went and had a good run. The A's were still kind of on the scene at that point as well. And we started talking
Sports Report After Dark fans. Tony G is just fucking name dropping right now, like a motherfucker.
I'm a networking whore.
This guy is upper class, working his ass off. Appreciate it. Sorry, Tony. Go ahead.
But we were talking about it yesterday because I'm going to be doing some stuff with him, and I'm going to have him on at some point in the future. But we were talking about it, and I made a point. And, obviously with him spending that time, he spent time around a lot of baseball writers, a lot of Hall of Famers, like even getting to talk to guys like Johnny Bench. Got to meet him one time, told a good story about him that we'll record eventually. But, talking to these players, and he has a decent understanding of the way that the game looks now. And he's in agreement that if that you have a pissed off players union because they don't have a seat at the table, and a MLB commissioner and Robert Manfred, who is, in my opinion, one of the worst things to happen to baseball, just in general, coming to the table to bargain this next agreement, and both of these sides hate each other. It is an us versus them mentality from both sides in Major League Baseball right now. And that's what people need to understand. That's what's happening. The last time that this happened and it was this bad, the Chicago White Sox fixed the 1919 World Series.
That was that bad.
That started the commissioner, what would create the commissioner of baseball, and end up obviously leading, because at that point, once the commissioner of baseball was brought in, at that point, the players didn't have a league. The players didn't get a league until it was the 50s or the 60s. And so, and they've just, there's now such a divide in Major League Baseball between the players and the owners, that the collective bargaining agreement is going to be a fight, because the league knows they should have dealt with the DH rule a long time ago, but it's a bargaining chip. It's a bargaining chip. They don't care about how it's actually going to impact the game, the benefits on which side you land on. It's a bargaining chip.
Right.
The players want this problem resolved. The fans want this problem resolved, but the league has it as a bargaining chip. Now, now that's not to say that the players have handled every situation perfectly, but a lot of these things that are coming up, the pressure that the players are put under in this billion-dollar spectacle of what is called America's pastime, of course, stuff is going to happen. It's why the World Series got fixed in 1919. It's why all the strikes of baseball have happened previously, even the one in 94. Push comes to shove. But the problem is that Major League Baseball is the worst at using their players, the worst at using social media, and the worst at keeping a relationship between the league and its fans. And if they don't fix it, they're going to be gone.
Right, Tony. Well, I mean, Tony, to be honest, how much do you think of the Major League Baseball's fans, their fan base? Obviously, we're fans of Major League Baseball, okay? We're both in our 30s. We're white males, okay? That's
well, of course we're fans of baseball, right?
That's not out. Yeah, well, that's not outside of. I mean, most of the fans of baseball are fans from they've been watching it for a long time. You know what I'm saying? Like these,
right?
It's most old white men. Be honest, it's old white men. How much of the changing dynamic of how many Hispanic players are in Major League Baseball right now do you think has to do with the fact that fans are unfortunately tuning out? For what reason? We don't know. Like, do you think the funny thing is, like, they're not looking at these people aren't looking at whether the game is better or not, because it's just as fucking good as it was in 1985. Do you think Gary Sanchez isn't just as good as Johnny Bench was? Honestly.
And that's the thing, is like, because of the fact that baseball really hasn't changed very much. Yes, there's been some changes. The pitchers are throwing faster pitches. The hitters are hitting differently. Well, obviously there's the change defensively in baseball with the shift. Okay, these are all things that have impacted the game. I'm not going to lie. But the other thing that we have to realize is that the league has consistently and continually ignored its players. Major League Baseball is the worst at it. Absolute worst.
They feel like they paid for the right to ignore their players.
And the friend of mine, Craig, that I was talking to yesterday, he made a valid point. And you know, and it kind of sticks along with that line that I've said multiple times about the MLB doesn't punish players and teams for cheating. They punish them for getting caught. Okay.
Right.
The league puts owners and managers into the Hall of Fame that benefited from the amazing seasons that were had during the steroid era. But we're sitting here arguing over whether or not Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, and Barry Bonds should be allowed in the Hall of Fame, which they should.
Interesting. Isn't that how that works? Yeah.
And you know, so just think about that for a second. The owners of these teams that knew what was going on, and if you think they didn't, you're wrong. If you think a man that's running $100 million or $1 billion sports organization doesn't know what's going on, you're very sadly mistaken. You need to pay attention.
Yeah.
An owner may not have actual proof because then they have plausible deniability on paper. But if you think that these sports team owners don't know what's going on, if you think that the Astros ownership didn't know the second that sign stealing stuff started happening, of course they knew. Why do you think they had all the equipment in the dugout to make it happen? The ownership paid for it.
Yeah.
So don't fucking tell me that they didn't know this shit was going on. But they're getting into the Hall of Fame for their historical, you know,
contributions.
Historical contributions to the game. But Barry Bonds,
the guys,
Mark McGwire, and Sammy Sosa kept baseball alive and re-energized the game. And also, let's be honest here. If we were to bring up all the evidence around the 1919 White Sox, Shoeless Joe would get made innocent and would be allowed to go into the Hall of Fame. And if it was reevaluated today, Pete Rose would get in with an asterisk of being, you know, having gamble addictions and sitting players and starting players because of the gambling addiction he had. Like they'll put that for the coaching side, but for his player, like he was the best pure hitter in baseball history. The best pure hitter in baseball history.
Average hitting for average, yeah.
Over 4,000 hits in his career.
Right.
You can't tell me that at least for that he doesn't deserve to have something in the Hall of Fame.
Clearly, Pete Rose should be in the Hall of Fame. Clearly.
And Pete Rose, Bonds, Sosa, McGwire, Shoeless Joe. You know, it's like we look at you like one of those things that you would talk to me about one time when I was comparing Babe Ruth to somebody because of hitting. And you pointed out that Babe Ruth used a cork bat. The reason that the cork bat rule exists in Major League Baseball today is because of Babe Ruth.
Yeah.
It is because of Babe Ruth. You can't tell me it's not.
Right.
So we have to stop looking at this with such a closed off mindset. And if Major League Baseball doesn't start treating their players like people, we're going to see baseball gone in the next 5 years, because the other major problem Major League Baseball is going to have to deal with, and the players are going to stand up for this, and they're not going to take it anymore, is how bad the conditions are in minor league baseball right now. The owners are going to have to do something. They're not going to have a choice.
Well, I think regardless too, I mean, none of this, like, let's be honest, none of this happens unless people want to watch this on TV.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think this is the biggest thing right now. Like, obviously, a lot of these leagues, especially the NFL, especially the NBA, a lot of their revenue is from TV contracts, right? I love watching the NBA on TV. I love watching the NFL on TV. I actually like watching Major League Baseball on TV, even though I'll tune out for whole periods of time during the game, unless it's, you know, the ALCS or something past that.
Right.
I'll tune out for large amounts of the game, because I just don't think that it's necessary for me to watch. But a lot of this has to be about the TV and how I don't give a fuck if you're dysfunctional as shit. The dysfunction actually makes it more interesting to me. But if I still get to watch the game and it's interesting in its outcome and in its substance, I'm going to keep watching it. I don't care if you're in a fucking feud with your mom on live. Do you know what I'm saying? I don't care if they're feuding with their parents on live TV. I'm still going to watch it because it's fun to watch.
So
because I want to see who wins.
By that premise, would it be funnier to watch a Golden State game if half the game Steph's standing on the sidelines arguing with his parents about their divorce, and then he runs back out, catches a pass, thinks a shot, and then runs back over? God damn it, guys, would you listen to me?
It should just be a split screen. It should just be a split screen of like a therapist and like all three of them are on the couch, like Steph with his parents cockeyed to each side. His mom's just like disinterested and like nervous.
She's wearing a Drake shirt.
Yeah, his dad's out. Yeah, his dad's out there like, well, I played in the NBA, but and then Steph's just like, well, I love my mom, and they just like, they should just keep the audio on for that and put it in one of those little
picture things,
like this big, like as big as this little space.
Yeah, the little pinball logo right there.
Yeah, right there in the middle. And they just play it, and they just play the audio, and they just play the fucking Major League Baseball game in the back. Yeah. And we got it done. Bam.
Done.
Have you ever watched the show The Bachelor? It is fucking terrible.
No.
God, it's terrible.
I have never been that close to suicide before.
Well, I have. And I'll tell you what. It is a nightmare, that show. It is a fucking nightmare. It is literally the highest grossing thing on TV right now, I believe. I think there ain't much that's above it if it's not. Because it is up there.
Right.
And people watch it.
All right, so let's go ahead and wrap this up before we head out for the night. You got any final thoughts?
Wrap this up is what I was gonna say. Never mind. Nope.
I'm
no
gonna condom all over your face, and I'm just gonna make sure it's tight enough that it keeps the air from going back in, so that we can all be better off.
Right. I mean, hey, I got a vasectomy, so we're all on the non-Dan reproducing boat. So
thank God.
This is all y'all get. This is all.
Yeah. His brokered is seedless is what he's saying. All right, buddy. Definitely check out tomorrow night. Drop the mic. I will be producing Josh and Pun talking all things music related. And don't forget to go to the Pinfall Stream page and check out all the info on the interview coming up with Alex Lynn. And, thank you for checking us out. We'll see you next week right here on Pinfall.
Pun and K, come on the show. We don't like just having Josh all the time. It's fucking boring. And his hair, it's just always a different color. And I don't fucking know what. Like, can we just get some different perspective here, please?
It's mood hair. It's mood hair. It changes colors based on what his mood is. That's what you have to figure out.
He's like a troll.
Pretty much. Yep, that's what it is.
Good God.
All right, buddy. Well, it was definitely a pleasure to have you tonight. It's definitely a pleasure to have you tonight. I'm so glad we get to do this. I'll see you next week. Those of you that are watching live and listening after, thank you for checking us out. We'll see you next week right here on Pinfall Network and Sports Report After Dark. Have a good night.
Bye, fucker.